brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to be working on our 2004 Ford F-150. We're going to show you how to change out your locking hub actuator at the end of the axle shaft going on to the hub at the back of the bearing. This is a very important part of your four-wheel drive system and very common to go wrong on these trucks. If you like this video, please click subscribe. We have a ton more information on this truck as well as many other makes and models. And if you want this part for your vehicle, follow the link in the description over to 1AAuto.com. Here are the items you'll need for this repair. Using a pair of pliers, wiggle the cap out of the center of the hub and remove this 13mm nut at the end of the axle. Break the lug nuts loose with a 19mm socket and a breaker bar. You only want to crack them loose about one turn. We're going to do this on a lift to make it easier to show you, but this job can be done at home on a jack and jack stands. Once we've loosened the wheel and the axle nut, we'll raise and support our vehicle. Finish removing the lug nuts and remove the wheel and tire from the truck. We'll remove these 6 12-point 12mm bolts with a 12-point socket and ratchet so we can disconnect the axle flange from the differential. You'll need a friend to get inside the vehicle and hold the brakes as you break the bolts loose. We'll rotate it and remove each one as they get on and off the brakes. We've soaked all of our hardware in penetrating oil before starting here because these flanges tend to get pretty rusty. This is not somewhere you want to break off a bolt. Have your assistant release the brake pedal. Rotate the axle around 180 degrees and have them re-engage the pedal so we can finish removing our hardware. Using a 30mm socket, remove this nut at the bottom strut bolt. You may have to support the bolt side with a 27mm wrench. Remove the nut and bolt. So we've cut the wheel all the way to the left to allow more room. Now we can pry out from under our strut. Pull it out to the side and easily remove our axle from the truck. This will take a little bit of work. You're going to have to move it a little, fight it. You may need a pry bar or a hammer to work it out. Sometimes they do just come out easily. We popped the strut back into place to make it easier to show you the back of the hub here. We're going to remove these 3 8mm bolts. I know you can't really see that one, but it's directly opposite the one in the foreframe here. We'll pop off the vacuum line. Take those bolts out with an 8mm socket and ratchet. Now we'll use a flat blade screwdriver to pry the actuator out of the hub. Here we have our old part that we removed from our vehicle and our new part from 1AAuto.com. As you can see, these parts are exactly the same. We have the same vacuum fittings at the top, the same 3-bolt mounting locations, the same gear and diaphragm on the back side. Now our old part really isn't too bad. It's still moving freely, just like our new part. What can happen with these is they can bind in either the unlocked position, which will stop the wheel on that side from engaging. If this happens, you won't have four-wheel drive, as most trucks have what's called an open differential, which sends power to the side with the least traction. If the axle isn't connected on one side, it sees that as a no traction condition and sends all the power to the wheel that won't turn. Or it can bind in the engaged position, which will cause stress and noise on the front driveline of your vehicle because one wheel is always locked in, spinning all the four-wheel drive components that aren't supposed to move when the vehicle is in two-wheel drive. So if you have any of these problems with your truck, this new part from 1A Auto is going to go in direct fit, just like your original equipment, and fix you up right. Reinstall your locking hub actuator into the spindle. You'll have to rotate it a little to get everything to line up. And reinstall your 3 8mm bolts. Tighten these down with an 8mm socket and ratchet. Reconnect the vacuum line. We had to move our strut back out of the way because we moved it back into its slot to show you how the locking hub works. Reinstall the CV axle. Being careful not to dislocate either of the joints or tear the boot. Put the strut back into place. To reinstall the bottom strut bolt, we're actually just a little bit out of line here, so we're going to take a pry bar, put it through this notch in the bottom of the control arm, and push up just a little, so our bolt slides in easily. We'll straighten out our wheel, spin the nut back on by hand, finish tightening it down with a 30mm socket and ratchet and a 27mm wrench to hold the bolt on the other side. Line up the flange at the rear of the CV axle. Reinstall your 12.12mm bolts. Get these in as far as you can by hand, and then you'll need your assistant again to work the brakes while you tighten them down with a socket and ratchet. Reinstall the wheel and tire. And start your 6 lug nuts by hand. Reinstall that 13mm nut onto our axle as far as we can, and then put our vehicle back on the ground. Tighten down the axle nut with a 13mm socket and ratchet. Reinstall the dust cap over the axle nut and tap it back into place. You can use a rubber mallet or a piece of wood on a hammer. I'm just using the end of the ratchet here because it's handy. Torque the lug nuts to 150 foot-pounds. It's very important when torquing 6 lug wheels. The cross pattern is different from your standard 5 lug wheel. You want to make little triangles. So we'll skip 1 lug and tighten the first 3, and then we'll go across, skip 1 again. So we'll be tightening the wheels in 2 small triangles.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope this video helped you out. Next time you need parts for your car, please visit 1aauto.com. Also check out our other helpful how-to as well as diagnosis videos.